my name is Remy Kufariji. I'm an architect, artist, and researcher from London.
My name is Wami Aluko. I'm a photographer, writer, and visual artist from Nigeria.
Hi, I'm Daniel. I'm a visual researcher, creative director from Lagos.
Okay. Thank you for making some noise. Can I make some more noise for them? Just a little bit more noise. Thank you. Daniel appreciates that. So we're just going to keep this as informal as possible. We're going to talk about like everyone's path to creativity with regards to referencing and research. And feel free to like just comment when you feel when there's something you feel like you relate to, jump in and piggyback off everyone. Does it sound good to you guys? Say hip hop if that sounds good to you guys. Okay, cool. We'll do R&B next time. The title of this panel is Research and Referencing for Creative Projects and Navigating the Path to Originality. And I guess because everyone's field is pretty different from everyone's, but you know, it's all creative. So obviously like everyone's process to referencing and researching is going to be completely different. For instance, I do a history podcast, I do a comedy podcast, and even like history is obviously just purely research, but even something as almost inane as comedy, you have to like do a lot of research before you make a joke, and everything is peer reviewed because it's three of us on the podcast, so we're constantly like saying, you can't say that, you shouldn't say that, because so there's a whole process there, and I'd like to hear from anyone who Daniel. Let's start with you. Let's get this out of the way. Let's get into it.
Okay.
So, what does researching for a project look like for you?
I mean, I guess because I'm a researcher.
Yeah.
Most of my projects I'm brought on to do research.
Okay.
So, like 70% of the things I'm doing, it's just research. Like they give me a brief.
Yeah.
I look over the brief and then kind of just draw whatever applies to what the project is.
Right. So let's do like a mini case study, right?
Okay.
Let's say it's for a music video and you're referencing like 16th century England or some shit.
Okay.
I know it's very specific, sorry. But what would that look like? And it's for an African artist. So what would that look like for you?
I mean, it depends on two things. So one depends on the song.
Yeah.
So what the artist and the song, like what the song is about, blah blah blah. But also depends on like my taste.
Okay.
In the sense that they brought me on for a reason.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at things that I'm interested in, and I think that work with that person's,
Yeah.
vision, direction, whatever. So I tend to look at things that I like, or like from memory.
Yeah.
So like a film that I've watched, or a music video, or a book I've read, or things like that. That's kind of where I start from. I just start writing things down based off of like my memory. I think because I kind of grew up with like a lot of like culture and like TV and books and all of this, I kind of have like I have things to pull from.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I start. So like if if we're in a meeting and the person is telling me, well, this is what this is, I start writing things down based off of what they're saying or based off of what the song.
Yeah. So it's like absorbing the theme and then putting your own influence on what you research. Does anyone here relate to that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I guess based on the field I work in, which is architecture and sometimes spatial arts, it really depends on the audience and the institution I'm working with. So I mean, when I'm doing architecture projects, it's really focused on being as forensic as possible with the context, the people, the materials, because that really is what makes up a project and a building. So, I mean, myself, I like to be really considered and almost a detrimental extent. I love researching. I think in school my favorite subject was geography or something, which is a bit left field. But I mean, I've really taken that methodical and forensic way of approaching a project and approaching context before even diving in. Because I mean, I'm not sure about you guys, but I've never been the person who has like a divine intervention where I just have a crazy idea and I can draw it on the page. Like, that's never been me. I've always been the person that really tries to understand the ins and outs of a problem before presenting a solution. So that's how it is in, I guess, architecture. But for more of my own artwork, I think it really comes from a place of identity. I mean, this is quite interesting because I'm from London and I normally present these sort of ideas to a Western audience. So it's actually quite beautiful to now present it to a West African audience. But for me, I really approach my research from a place of understanding my identity. I mean, I'm half Nigerian, half Guyanese, and I kind of use my research as opportunities to explore issues or explore phenomena or anything that's interesting in these territories, but simultaneously explore my own heritage. So that's how I kind of see research as just like opportunity, really.
Thank you for that.
I think my research process is a lot more intuitive. I think when we think of research, we think a lot about the mind, or the mental, intellectual. For me, I guess research, or yeah, it's an opportunity to learn. I guess the discovery goes both to the external world in terms of what I learn from talking to people, reading articles, but then also what that reflects about myself. I'm very interested in the parallels between biology and mysticism, and the idea of like mysticism just being that process of becoming, I guess, one with all that is, one with all the forces that is. I think is like the phenomenology of, or rather, no, the research of the phenomenology. Oh yeah. The mysticism is the phenomenology of biology in the sense of it's the first-hand experience of it.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the things that we say casually kind of has a scientific backing to it. And for example, like we ourselves are forces of nature. Like our bodies produce light. We are from the earth. Our bodies are 99% water on a molecular level. So these things kind of move through us through feeling and emotion. So I see the research as a portal, I guess, to kind of to mirror these feelings in myself and then go deeper into the experience. Because I feel then tapping into your feelings allows you to kind of unlock new ideas that you can then kind of back by more research. So yeah, that's how my process goes.
Oh, thank you for that. This leads me to like my second main question, which is if you look at your individual fields and just holistically and not just you but other players in the field, how important do you think researching and referencing is to it?
Do you want to go?
Could you repeat?
How important referencing and researching is in the field? I mean, I think I somewhat answered that in my last question, but I guess riffing off, I guess the first answers is that research isn't just sitting down in front of a computer or going to a library and spending hours and hours just reading about stuff from 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Research is in your everyday rituals. Like, I find some of my most productive ideas come from when I'm taking downtime or like when I'm playing games or not like playing board games with friends or when I'm going to museums or watching movies. It's like seeing everything as it's just really garnering all these different sort of ideas together, and that is so relevant in all of our fields. Like, I mean, again, in architecture, it kind of goes, there's like trends or like every architect is trying to reference someone else, and that's fine, but a lot of these architects are thinking architecture with a capital A, but I like to see architecture as like looking at music videos or films or even conversations or conversation with families or friends and trying to bring all of these unique experiences to kind of influence my design sensitivities.
Okay.
So it's like how important research is to.
Yeah, I mean, just your work in general.
Yeah, it's my work. I think it's very vital for me. I'm a very curious person. I love to learn. And I'd like to see life as like this big school. So I think for me, my work is an opportunity to really get to know things and peel back the layers of what I thought I knew. And a lot of that involves like first-hand conversations. I love talking to people. And I love talking to people that maybe a lot of people might ignore in their day-to-day,
Yeah.
and realities that aren't necessarily mainstream. So, for example, I mentioned mysticism. I'm very passionate about folklore and mythology. And recently, I had this interesting conversation with someone I met at a beach. I think it was past Elegushi. He was telling me about his experience with water as like a being, and how they pray to the water not to destroy their homes, and how they give sacrifices, and how these things work. And he genuinely experiences water as a being.
Yeah.
And I think that is a reality that's worth integrating into my own. Um, so yeah, it's an opportunity to discover more about the earth, and I think again about myself as a force of nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
Thank you.
important. In relation, oh sorry,
No, go on.
I was gonna say in relation to my artwork, I feel like they translate into symbols, into the different elements that I use, and also into the people that I work with, because the people that I document tend to also be people that I learn from.
Yeah.
So I like to involve everyone in the process of creation as well.
Okay. I was going to say, Daniel, you're a researcher, so I mean, asking you how important research is to your job is insane. So
I mean,
yeah, you want
yeah,
to?
I don't think. I mean, yes, I'm a researcher, but I don't think research is like, I guess, synonymous to, like, it's not like everybody does research, you know?
Yeah.
I think you can only impact the future if you like look at the past or like live in the present. Like, you kind of need
Yeah.
to look at what's been done and not necessarily tailor it to, no, actually, you have to look at what's been done and then tailor it to your story, your idea, your concept, your work, whatever. So I think it's important for everyone.
Right. Because media is storytelling. at the
Yeah,
end of
like
the day.
yeah, you need a story. Like,
Yeah.
stories are important. I do like research is there to like enhance your ideas or like to kind of move things forward, I think.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because it kind of leads to my next question, and I want to start with you for this one.
Okay.
And that's what tools do you use? Google doesn't count, obviously, but what do you like?
I mean,
What resources do you employ?
I do a lot.
Yeah,
Uh,
just give us like the basic 1, 2, 3.
so I would say like I'm going to take it back to being like a child, and when I was a child I used to read a lot because there were always books around and there were always magazines around and
And
things
there was
around.
one that,
And that so I used to like my mom had a lot of art books and like fashion magazines, so I used to read that. I used to hang out with my older cousins. We used to watch a lot of like things I shouldn't have been watching, but like Christina Aguilera music videos or Britney Spears or whatever.
yeah,
Now, fast forward to now, those things that I was like getting into when I was younger, that's what I used to.
well, so is it just
So-
is it just remember?
It's not memory, no.
Okay,
I
yeah.
mean, memory plays a part, but I use music videos, I use films, I use art books. I love like photo books, so I
Okay.
have like, I'm slowly building a collection of like books, and I would like to like make a photo book one day.
Yeah.
But so yeah,
Okay.
music videos, films, art books, magazines, a lot of magazines.
Well, back
Because I'm coming in on projects as a creative director or a visual researcher in the context of fashion, um, I kind of have to look at like what people are wearing, you know. And then I have like a little camera, and I'm sure people have seen me with my
I've definitely seen
camera.
it with the camera.
So I take like a lot of pictures with my camera, and I walk a lot. So that's also, I guess, a form of
Yeah.
research. Those are like my main forms of research. But I use Google a lot. I'm not going to lie. Like, I use Google a lot. Like, when I was like a child, there were lots of like forums and things like that, like fashion forums, art forums, music forums,
Yeah.
where you would find things that you might not see anywhere else. So yeah, and also like because honestly, I feel like Tumblr kind of shaped my love for research or whatever.
Yeah, it's very soft
So
archiving.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of where things kind of started from. But yeah, those things.
Remy,
I resonated with what you said about taking pictures. I also walk a lot, and I love taking pictures of the tiny details I find of plants, and then I research to find out what it is that I'm actually looking at.
yeah.
So that's a good one. Um, I'm a very, I guess, sonic learner. I like listening to podcasts, and Advaya is a good resource. Um, they have an Instagram page, and they also have courses online. The courses have a lot to do with mythology, biology, ecology, and yeah, they have very interesting lecturers that kind of merge together various bodies of work in ways that you might not necessarily imagine. Um, so yeah, and then research, like art, I find our random articles, stories that people tell me. I talk to my grandma a lot, and she's told me a lot of interesting stories. Um, yeah, I like talking to old people. They have a lot of older people. They have a lot of interesting stories and insights. So yeah, conversations for sure.
Yeah, for me, I reiterate everything that you guys have already said. Photos, discussions. I mean, obviously, sort of Pinterest, Instagram, kind of like Tumblr vibes. But I find that to kind of maybe generate an aesthetic like approach to a project, whether it be form, materiality, color. But I guess for my practice personally, so I'm doing a research residency at Gas Foundation at the moment. And coming into this residency, I was really, because I've done a lot of research in the past about Egungun masquerades and Gilide masquerades and River State masquerades, and kind of understanding those as a way to speak about issues of climate change and biodiversity change through the materiality. So that's what I kind of came into Lagos focusing on, and that's brought me to do a lot of first-hand research. So I've visited like 3 different masquerade families. I've gone to a couple of different festivals. I've gone into the compounds. I've just tried to immerse myself with as much first-person research as possible, which is super important because I mean, when I first started this research into masquerades, it was in 2019 and it was during COVID. So I really relied on just having a network and having friends in Lagos and in River State who could give me their experience or they could put me in contact with someone else. But now that I'm here, I've like really focused on being as present as possible. So that's specific to my research. But then again, like, I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to just everything I'm interested in. Like, I always kind of wanted to do fashion, but I ended up doing architecture. So when I'm still working, I always have a fashion podcast on or documentary. Like, I try to put like 5% of Margella's design methodology into all of my work. And with music artists as well, I mean, of course, growing up, my brothers listened to like Kanye West mixtapes. So like seeing, like I really sort of immersed myself in that in regards to what they were wearing, what they were talking about, the sort of aesthetics of the music videos, the colors they're wearing. So that's stuff that subconsciously, I'm sure still really impacts me to this day. It's all about like, I don't say ancestral learning, but it's like intergenerational learning just through being present.
That's interesting. Oh, do you want to go?
No, I want to say something.
Yeah, go on.
I feel like this is a bit like silly, but I think it's also important to look at like the culture of things. So like a perfect example is like things now that are like trendy or you know that people are watching. So like a reality show.
Yeah.
Things like that, memes, gifs. I remember I was on a call with some directors and they were talking about how when they're like making their storyboards, they use like random like gifs and memes that they see on like Twitter.
Yeah.
So like I think you can really like use whatever for research. You just have to kind of tailor it to the experience, the story, the concept.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Just between what you both said, because this is like a wide range of things to pull from. So how do you like take all those things and put out something that's original conceptually? Like how do you take things from the past but still like, make something that feels new?
I think
Like that?
it goes back to like the brief. What is the brief? Like what are you being asked to do? What are you being asked to tell?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of people don't. Not a lot of people, but people don't know how to like.
A lot of people.
A lot of people don't know how to like. Two things. So a lot of people don't know how to give briefs.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know how to receive it. Sometimes I'll be honest, like someone might give me a brief and I'm like, oh, whatever, like yeah.
Yeah.
And I do something, and I do the research, and I put the mood board up, and it's not what they wanted. Sometimes they give me the brief. I do the research. I didn't understand the brief. I do the research, and it worked.
Yeah.
Because sometimes some people are they're using you, or they're using research as a way to like inspire like their like
It can
skill, or like
yeah.
the
To like pinpoint the idea.
yeah, like to pinpoint the idea.
Yeah.
When I feel personally, when I'm doing things, it starts with like an idea,
Yeah.
and it's not. And I think because for a good chunk of my creative work life or whatever, I've been doing research, and I've had to like sit back and watch a lot of people and like in different fields. So like I've worked with like designers or like in publication or like art direction.
Yeah.
When I'm like doing something or when I'm coming up with an idea, I have to like, there has to be an idea. And that idea from that idea, I now start doing the research.
Okay.
I can't remember what your question was.
Originality,
Oh,
post research.
I mean, yeah, but that's, yeah. It starts, creativity is such a like unique thing that no matter what you see, you can't create something that you can't create that thing.
Yeah.
So
there's always going to be a bit of your personality.
So like that, like I would say, like come up with an idea and then use that idea to inform your research, and not use the research to inform your idea. Which I don't know if that.
So it's about refining.
Yeah, I guess.
Or maybe the opposite of refining. Because
I
I kind of feel like.
But sorry,
Go.
I don't think it's like it doesn't have to be like a deep thing. There just has to be something. If you have something, have a story, tell whatever the concept is. Just sit down, think. No matter how long it takes, but like sit down, think, and then use that to inform the research. And that's kind of how like it'll be original, because you can look at like everyone references.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite photographers, Stephen Meisel, if you look at his work, he references a lot of films. He references a lot of photographers. But you might not notice it because he's kind of tailored it to an idea, or tailored it to the clothes, or tailored it to the story that the fashion is kind of, bringing. But yeah, I feel like it's around that.
Just riffing off what you were saying, Daniel. I feel like, at least for me, I really enjoy just wearing my references and my interest on my sleeve. And like these experiences, or these sort of, taste, they really define my projects going forward, subconsciously or consciously. And it's the case that I like to be really honest with my references. Like if I say, I was inspired by this staircase, or I was inspired by this, like the way the concrete was treated, I will be super specific. I will say who did it. But my point is that I might pull that idea, but I like smash 3 others into it at the same time. So I really enjoy the idea of like creolization, of like hybridizing ideas and hybridizing forms.
Well, that's why you said it's the opposite of refinement.
Exactly. Because I mean, by merging loads of things, like 3 things together, it might be something that is an elevated idea, or it might be something that is so stripped back or deconstructed, it might be grotesque, but it still becomes its own unique thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I really enjoy the idea of hybridizing, whether it be material forms, but also time. Like, I really love archives. Like, archives are so fascinating to me, in the sense because, yeah, it does feel like a bit like a time machine, in a way, even to do with what people are dressing, how a building has been weathered, the cars people were using, like that.
Yeah.
If you bring that to today, and that kind of creates something completely new, because what are you saying about one of your favorite photographers or directors? Yeah, like they really reference all the time, but they by having an idea and decontextualizing it and putting it in an entirely new environment, that almost becomes something unique in its own way. Because like, I'm a strong believer that no idea is original. If you have a good idea, someone has thought about it already, or they're actively thinking about it and doing it. Yeah. So what you can do is, through your own experiences, your skills, your lack of skill, you can become a medium for that idea and create something new, just because it's coming from your hands.
Yeah. I think piggybacking off what you said there tends to be a question that's asked.
Yes.
I think that's a good place to start, because then it leaves a gap between what you already know and what you don't know yet. So then it's like an opportunity to fill that with, I guess, respond through whatever comes intuitively, but then also through, because I feel like our brains have like a library of information archives, and through the questions we're able to just like connect dots and pick things and weave them together to create something. I guess a new iteration. I feel like Earth we're always evolving and we go in cycles, but everything, I guess, kind of is birthed for the first time in a new way. So I think it's an opportunity for you to be a vessel for the continuation of that and like respond to what already exists. So I feel like research, I guess, finding references for images is an opportunity to kind of sharpen your own visual language or your own language, and you kind of create a new meaning, or based on what you see, it might not have been what the initial creator had intended for, but it represents something different for you. So that's kind of how, I guess, comes back again to what it reflects in you, and then you can use that to birth something new.
Thank you for that. I'm thinking about like just doing research for history, for instance. A lot of information online is, I don't know how to explain it, but history is very colonized. So, especially when you're telling African history, most of it is from people who are not African. And sometimes when you're looking up a story or some information, you want to peer review, you want to hear from locals, people that are actually there, and just like cross-reference all the information. So how do you guys, just especially ethically speaking, how do you handle the ethics of navigating your research?
Sorry, the ethics of
like navigating research and referencing.
I was actually I was actually gonna chime in during the last set of questions to talk about this, because it's super important. Because I've been very transparent. I am made up of all my references, lived and seen and learned. But I feel like a way to be ethical and productive is the people you're referencing. If they are accessible, collaborate with them, speak to them, tell them that you think their shit is cool. Like, just start generating this network and this sort of, give flowers when they're necessary, because you'll eventually get those flowers back. So like, whenever I can, like, as I said, when I was doing my initial research in 2019, I was just researching stuff on Instagram, and I found, this is a cool costume designer, this is a cool masquerader. I was like, I don't know how to make this shit, I'm not gonna copy you, so let's collaborate. Yeah. So through that, we created a really beautiful project, I feel.
Yeah.
And so yes, collaboration, and when you're dealing with a particular community, it's, as you're saying, like trying to be a part of that community and speaking with them, like literally speaking with them, not like they're sort of specimen, like they're actually humans, right? Like trying to involve them through the process, trying to not be extractive, because that's one of the bad things about, I guess, referencing or creators in general. I feel like it can be quite easy to be extractive if you have like a good idea, or you're referencing someone, or you're referencing like a community. Without really engaging the community, it can be extractive. So I really, reiterate, try to be as upfront, transparent, and collaborative as possible.
Yeah, I would say I've learned a similar thing on my journey as well. I think collaboration is the key to also just, I mean, I guess original ideas in the sense of if you're being present with the person you're working with, if you're in touch with how you feel and you're working with people that you genuinely respect and that respect you, then you're able to kind of birth something in an organic way rather than in a forced way where you're kind of calculating, oh, I think I should work with this person or because it will get me here. And then that kind of it's not organic anymore. So I feel like if it's a genuine connection, that also helps for you to also you want to treat the person with care because you genuinely respect whatever it is they're going to teach you. So yeah, I think respect is very important, and I've learned to, respect even the earth. Like there's some places that I feel like I want to make sure I have the consent to actually document this animal or this place, and that I'm actually treating it in the way that they would want to be treated. So yeah, because photography can be very intrusive. I think
Of course.
it can be very intrusive. So
Yeah.
you learn.
Makes no sense. What they said. Basically. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think for me, personally, when I'm like looking up, let's say I'm looking up information about a civil war from like 60 years ago, I think one of my biggest challenges is always like, I find the perfect article. I click on it. It's coming up. It's loading. Boom, paywall. $2, which is not crazy. It's not expensive, but like something in me is like, why do I have to pay $2 for this?
Sure, yeah.
And then I spend like 6 hours looking for like an alternative way to find it when I could have paid the $2 and I could have, I'd be done faster. But I think that's just like my problem, my personal problem, because I'm a bad person and I don't like to pay people for the. So I'm going to work on that definitely. But what kind of challenges do you guys face when you're trying to research and just look up a subject or a topic and do it faithfully and like ethically and honestly? What are the biggest challenges you face?
I mean, I'm just going to speak in this moment in time.
Sorry, I hate that you're about to give like a well thought out answer. And my challenge was $2. It's $12. So can we change it to $12 in post? Yeah, it's actually 12. The paywall was $12. Go on. Yeah.
At this moment in time, because I came to Lagos to do research on, I say the spectacle outside of the spectacle. So I've been really interested in masquerade, but really looking at the furniture, the architectures, and everything that is outside of the performance that makes the performance happen. So that would be the rituals, the ceremony stalls, the divination trays, the shrines. So I've been speaking with like 3 masquerade families, and they've been super generous, but I can't see these things because I'm not initiated. So like, I physically can't go deeper into this until I become an initiate of this religion. So, which is completely understandable because masquerade is a sacred thing that has a sort of idea of secrecy that should be maintained.
Yeah.
But that's where the sort of my research has kind of hit a wall. So I've had to sort of see if I could actualize that research in a different way.
Yeah.
So that's just like literally this moment in time. Okay. So that's my paywall.
That's your paywall.
Yeah, I'd say a similar thing. I guess there are language barriers as well. And the privacy, I guess that's where care comes in. Because I guess the more you respect someone, the more willing they are to actually open up to you. But yeah, I mean, everyone has their own boundaries. So there are limits to how much you can know. I feel like it's really interesting how I guess a lot of things that we find online are kind of like the surface of how deep you can go into that thing. Because people who do research, people who share their stories, they always keep something. So I think that's really interesting. There was the day I was on the beach, these girls came up to me and they were like, "Oh, I like you," and they're like, "Oh, you don't speak Yoruba." Oh, bye. So yeah, that's definitely a block. But I think whatever it is that you're meant to find, you will find.
Well said.
I agree with what both of them said. Like, an example is like, back to what Remy said about like collaborating with like an artist. Like, if you've seen like this person's work, reaching out, sometimes they don't want to, let things go. They don't want to, like, I've had situations where the photographers I've loved, or like I've seen something in a magazine or something,
Yeah.
or in a book, and I find their email or I find their Instagram, I find something, and I'm like, okay, I know there are outtakes. I know you have like, I guess more from this story or whatever. Can I please
Yeah.
look and say, can I please use it? Because also, a lot of the things, people don't really see my research. I don't know if that makes sense. Like a lot of the research I'm doing it for inspiration, for like, no, the general public isn't going to see
Yeah.
like a mood board that I've made, or
They'll
isn't
just
going to
see
see like
achievement.
they'll see the finished work or the
Yeah.
the actualized project, but they aren't going to see it. So, researching ethically or whatever and trying to ask people, they might not want to let things go. So that's like a huge, hurdle, struggle. But another thing, being in Lagos and like trying to do research here, like there aren't a lot of libraries or like a lot of like
No.
cultural centers or like
Archives.
archives. Like I was on a tour of Lagos Island a couple months ago, last month, and we went past like this place that's like the center for Black and African art or something like
I know that building.
Yeah. So we got there. We're like, okay,
Where's the black?
I want to go in. I want to see what they have. Like, I could
Yeah.
use it, and it wasn't open. They had like a number on it. We called the number and we're like, okay, we want to use like whatever you guys have. Like they have, I think, books on like First Act 77 and things like that.
Yeah.
And we're like, we want to, on the spot. And they said, oh, you have to write a letter to a director in order to get access to like get in to the.
So there was no one in the building.
There was a guy standing outside. I guess it
There's
could
always a
have
guy
been
standing
anyone.
outside,
Like he could have
yeah.
been anyone. We're like, oh, can we come in? And he was like, no.
Yeah.
And it's things like that. Like that is a huge, like, because you just want to read. You just
Yeah.
want to see what you can get. You just want, like, these things are a part of us. Like, and yeah, so that's like another, those are like my, in this moment, those are my main.
Can I ask about that? Because yeah, I'm doing research at the moment and had a friend who also came to Lagos doing research, and he said he experienced a lot of gatekeeping in like the libraries and archives. Like, why? I mean, besides maybe the obvious thing about like the financial infrastructure, but like, why is it really difficult to kind of get?
I just think, like, personally, this is my opinion. I think the people who are in charge of these things, they don't care. They don't really like. How is this their business? It's like a job.
Yeah.
Gigs again.
It's something that they have to do. It's not something that they care about, like something that they want to do. And I'm sure, like, back to the Center of Black Arts situation, I'm sure, like, if I knew the director, I could have just gone and been like, oh,
Yeah.
hi,
Yeah.
hi, uncle, or whatever. Can I use this? But I don't. And a lot of people don't know these people. I don't know why. And I think there are like places like Jazz Hall is a good place. They have a lot of things that you can, or like 16 by 16 has like a little library there, or like Gas Foundation has like a but it isn't like
It's not extensive.
Yeah, it's not extensive one, and there isn't funding too, and people also don't know about these things. Like,
True.
if you're in New York, you can go to the New York Public Library, get a library card, and you can even look online, and they have their archives online. But here, there's nothing like that. I just think no one cares. And the people who do care, i.e. me, I don't like have. Not that I don't have power, but like it's hard. Like it's like a long process. Like you try to do these things, and there will always be roadblocks. There will always be like, So you just have to kind of build it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very bureaucratic.
But yeah.
Yeah. Last thing I want to ask before I open up the floor to external questions is what. Okay, so you've been given a brief. You've done the work. You've done the research. It's time to cite your resources, references. What best practice? Like, how would you guys go about that?
I don't cite my.
You don't cite.
I don't, like, I'm sorry. They need to come back. They
you're
need to pay me
mysterious.
again.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I'm not like I'm not going to tell them where I got this from. Like, they can find it themselves. If they could, they would.
If they had.
If, yeah, you know, like.
Okay.
But I'm half Turkish. I mean, it depends. Like, again, no one is really outside of the people who are looking. Like, no one is seeing it. So if I'll tell them where I got. If I got it from a book, I'll tell them like what book it was from, or like what magazine it was from, or what music video this was from, or what director this is, or things like that. That's really the only way that I can.
Yeah.
Unless I'm like working on a research project that is like extensive and then like I
document.
I have to like cite everything. But like 50% of the time I don't. Like if you go on my Instagram and the things I've posted on my Instagram, I will put where I found it from or like what magazine this is.
So
or
Instagram.
what.
That's it. Yeah.
But in terms of like there's no need to like
Yeah.
as long as you understand what the research is and as long as you've seen what has inspired you or whatever, I mainly don't, honestly. Like, I don't.
Fair answer. Anyone else? Right?
I guess it depends. When there's like a major influence or a source of inspiration, I tend to just like mention it as I'm writing about it. I also tend to create things in response to things that I see. So I tend to share the things that I'm responding to on my social media. If it's for like an essay, then I have like a full reference. And I use a Cite This For Me website to just, I put in the information and they give me the quotes that I put in my essay. Yeah, pretty much. Oh, and then the people that I document are also people that I'm researching from. So I mention my muses as well.
Important.
Yeah, I guess, similar to Wami. I kind of provide a visual bibliography whenever I'm proposing a project. Like, at the moment, I'm working on a project in Portugal, an installation project where we're kind of looking and critiquing the relationship between Portugal and Angola in regards to diamond mining. So we were sent this like extensive archive from the Diamond Company, which is a diamond mining company from Portugal. And so to be very honest with the references, we presented, let's say the document is 10 pages. I think the first 5 is highlighting the specific images that defined the idea of the project, as well as external images. So again, I guess I just love being as transparent as possible. So I provide as much information through a visual bibliography or also just, of course, discussion when presenting these ideas back.
Great. Does anyone have any questions?
Speechless.
Yes, one person.
My question is for Daniel. I know you're an art director, right? You're an art director. So I want to know, like, what exactly is like the main difference between a creative director and an arts director? Because I kind of get them mixed up sometimes. So I don't really know. There's like some sort of main difference.
Okay, so I think art directors, they're like 2 meanings, I guess. So there's an art director in terms of like graphics and like layout and things like that. That's not what I do. I don't do that. So when the difference for me, art directing, I'm like dealing with, so I'm coming up with the idea, but also working through all the parts of it, of the execution of the idea. And then a creative director is someone who just comes up with the concept and just gives it to the people. So like even in a fashion context, the creative director of a brand, sometimes he's just coming up with the like vibe, look, references of what they've seen. And they have a design team kind of dishing out and doing the technical work. So for me, that's kind of the difference. So like if I'm art directing a project, I'm like a part of everything.
Yeah, it's
So
more
like
holistic.
cast, set design, you know, crew, whatever. Yeah, but like, and then if I'm creative directing something, I'm just giving an idea. Like, you know, this is the idea. You guys can kind of like deal with what you want. But yeah.
Any other question? Yeah.
Pardon me, sorry, the question is not properly thought out, but anyone can answer it. Is Daniel mentioned something about everyone being a researcher, and because I work in like the visual space, images, videos, and all of that, most people, the directors, the photographers, they do their own research and referencing. So, and I think on this panel, the only person that seems to be more of the specialist is Remy, who does like architecture and spatial stuff. But for you that works in the visual space, how do you get jobs and how sustainable is it to be a researcher in the visual space?
It's a good question.
Don't gatekeep. No gatekeeping. I'm kidding. You can gatekeep it.
No, there's nothing to gatekeep. How do I get jobs? I think honestly, I'm going to be honest. A lot of the jobs that I've gotten came from Instagram. So I have like I in 2018 or 2017 or something. I started like an online like archive because I didn't really. There were like I knew I've always had like creative inclinations. I always knew like I was going to be like someone who worked in the creative field. But at the time, there was no one that I was really interested in working with, or like there was no one that I knew personally, and I felt like a lot of people, like to work with their friends, which is fine. So I kind of created the Instagram to show like what I was looking at, and then from there, like people started hiring me to work as a visual researcher, and then as that went on, I realized that okay, like research is fun and all, but like I want to like come up with the idea. I want to like execute the idea. So I went to that. But yeah, for me personally, like a lot of the jobs that I've gotten started from my Instagram and then word of mouth. So I've worked on a project. I did really well working on the project. Someone else is looking for a researcher, and then they told them about me. But the thing is, a lot of, I won't say institutions, but a lot of like creative like companies they have like specific like research. So like some publications have like photo researchers. Some art direction agencies have some art direction agencies have like specific like researchers. Um, and then, but yeah, yeah. So how like I that's kind of the best way to answer that. Um, in terms of sustainability, unless you like are working in these like institutions that are paying you like a day rate or like paying you like salary, it's kind of hard because you're working freelance, and working freelance is like with anything you kind of just
Yeah.
do what you want, do what you find. But yeah, that's kind of I think that's the answer to your question.
I
Yeah.
have an answer. Well, at the moment, people don't hire me for research, except for once was like an interview thing where, yeah, I guess it was partly for research. But so people hire me for photography, um, and occasionally writing, occasionally creative directing, in addition to photography. So I would say the research then just comes in, I guess, to my creative direction, but then also just to coming up with like a distinct style. So I feel like we're entering, I guess, an age where people care a lot more about storytelling and about depth and details. So it's been a bit of a slow burn for me personally in terms of like sustainability financially. But I think people, as you build your narrative, the research was really for me. It wasn't for commercial purposes, but it helps because the deeper I go into my research, the more of a distinct style I have. So then people are coming to you for that point of view, which you spent a lot of time building and crafting. So it pays off, but it's like a bit of a slow burn, unless you're being paid as a researcher, like in an institution.
Also, to add to what I said, sometimes you could just like reach out to someone. So like you have a lot of people have their emails in their Instagram. You can just reach out and be like, oh, this is what I've done.
Put yourself out there.
I I love working with art direction agencies because it's like it's a team and like it's fun. So when I'm not working with an art direction agency, I tend to do this thing where I'll just like randomly, like if I like an art direction agency and I like the work that they do, I like the brands that they work with, whatever, I just send them an email and I'll be like, oh, hi, are you looking for a researcher or like art director? And I'll show them like what I've done. Sometimes I've done this thing where I'll like just use one of the mood boards I've made for something else and be like, oh, this is a mood board that I worked on. This is the final product.
Can I add a couple things? Can I add a couple things or should we move on? Let's move on.
I was going to say, do you want to say what you want to say?
I'll try to be super quick. How much time do we have left? Although I specialize in, I guess, architecture and spatial design, a lot of my personal art projects have really come from just getting myself out there, really. Like, if there's an artist I like, I'll go to their show, and I'm probably going to find people who are like-minded, who like my art. Like, be your biggest cheerleader, really. Like, the reason I'm even on this panel is because I saw Daniel randomly like a few days ago, and I was like, hey, I'm really interested in archiving and like masquerade. And he's like, okay, this sounds great, come to the talk. So it's one of those things about getting yourself out there. And I'm like a chronic overthinker. Like, I really struggle to share my work at times, but that's the only way people will ever know what you're doing. If you start verbally talking about your work, like, I know it's corny, but you really do manifest it. So like really get yourself out there verbally and visually.
It does work.
He's right.
Yeah. I would say open your heart as well, because I feel like
be vulnerable.
Be vulnerable because you then attract people who are also on the same wavelength and who are also paying attention to the little details. So I think reaching out to people that you genuinely connect with their work, the chances are they probably connect with your work as well. Mm-hmm. And conversations with people, ask people for help as well. Ask people for, like, do like-minded clients, for example. Like if you work with someone and you really like the space, they could also connect you to a community of people who think in a similar way. Mm-hmm. So I'll say, connect with people, open your heart to people, and be honest.
Sorry. If you like their work, they probably look at the same references as you, so you have a mutual friendship in a way. Yeah. So kind of use that to your benefit.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. One more question. All right.
Yeah, sorry. So I wanted to ask, how do you navigate between, you're researching for you and sometimes it's for a client, right? Mm-hmm. So you're researching for you sometimes, like you, and you're researching sometimes because you got a job from a client. So how do you guys navigate when the client that comes to you is, how do I say, it's not really in line with what you do, but then you're thinking this is a good check. And then some people see your work, they like your work, and they just want to work with you in terms of, okay, yeah, you can produce what we're looking for. My question really is, how do you separate the two when someone approaches you and then it's not in line with what you really do, but you feel like this is a good opportunity, and then there's also something that is in line with you and it doesn't really pay as much as the thing that's not for you? Like,
the first one, like when someone approaches you and it's not in line with your work, I feel like research is learning. So like you're learning something new anyways. So if you're doing that, like you're going to learn something that will impact. You can be impacted by anything. So sometimes I will do the things that I feel like I don't really not care about, but it's not something I've put much thought to because I want to know.
Yeah.
You know, I'm, you know,
It's not your forte yet.
yeah, it's not my forte, but I'm like, okay, why not? Like, let's try it. Like, let's see. And then if I get paid, I get paid. Like,
So you're open-minded about it.
huh?
You're open-minded about
Yeah,
it.
I'm quite. I think you kind of need to be as a creative.
Yeah.
Like,
And you kind of
but-
need to put yourself in uncomfortable positions because, like that kind of point where it feels uncomfortable, something beautiful can emerge from
Yeah.
that, and something that you never thought was possible could happen
Exactly.
from that point of the unknown in a way. So yeah, as we were saying, to be open, vulnerable, but yeah.
in terms of the other one, so like something you align with, but you aren't getting much money from. I would still do it. Like, just you never know what would come out of something. You have to be open minded. You don't know, like and honestly, like you. One thing I've realized this year that I didn't really know, in the past, you can kind of get money from anything, in the sense that you can get grants, you can you can get investors. Like, there are ways around things. So I don't think you need to I understand, yeah, money is a thing, but I don't think you really need to put too much thought into that. If it's something you're aligned with and it's something that will feed you, just do it and then think about the outcome later.
Yeah.
I think.
I would
But-
say,
I don't. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
a
but
tough one.
It's
It's really
it's really
specific
hard. Like
to the-
it's
Especially in our social climate, you understand why?
I know,
Yeah,
I know,
exactly.
but it's like you would get more. Like you would feel so full. Like when it's done, you'd be like, oh, this is something that I worked on. This is something that I was a part of. I've done a lot of things where I'm not being paid. I'm just like, okay. Like, this is something that I love to do. The outcome was beautiful. Like, this was for me or whatever. What is it? But yeah.
I was gonna add, I think working with people you can grow with as well. So, because like a lot of clients that maybe they respect your work, but they might not be able to pay as much. I think if you feel, trusting how you feel, do you feel like this is something that is generally going to expand your craft? I think are they people who you genuinely respect? And if you build a relationship with them, they're going to grow, you're going to grow, and they're going to be able to pay you more as the jobs keep coming. So it's good to be able to find people you can grow with. I think in terms of prioritizing money, I think, yeah, just trust how you feel and your needs at the time, to be honest. I think we learn as we go along what kind of jobs we want to take and what kind of jobs we want to reject. And I think it's important not to put yourself in situations that are going to make you really anxious. Say yes to things that you really just don't want to do at all. So I think there's a balance. There's a balance there in trusting how you feel, your situation, and how confident you are. I feel like the more confident you are in what you're doing, the more chances people will want to pay you. Not because your work is better, but because you're speaking like you know what you're saying. I think a lot of it has to do with,
And you care.
and you care.
Like, you actually care about what you're doing. You care about that person's thing, whatever. Sorry.
So that part about caring, because you care, I feel like some people approach that from a toxic point of view, whereas they don't take advantage of the fact that you care.
I mean, that's life. So you're essentially saying because you care, some people will take advantage of you, right? I
Have
guess
your
that's-
limits.
Yeah, I think protect yourself, but also just you just have the things that you just have to do for development of yourself, your story, for the plot,
Yeah. At the end of the day, you're going to know what you need.
you will know what you need. You just have to. You should protect yourself, but you should also look at things with an open mind. I know it's easy to say, but then when you're in the situation, it might be like, ooh, I don't know, but
Yeah.
you know.
Focus more on how what advantage of you. I think someone might have their intentions, but if you're very clear about what you want to get out of it, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
Because you're
that's
still putting out what you wanted to put out and you're feeling the way you want to feel.
People will take advantage, regardless. You just have the thing is, there's this podcaster who has this thing called the let them theory, which is like whatever someone does to you, you don't think about it, just let them do it. So if you're in a situation where someone is taking advantage of you based off the fact that you care about their project or whatever, think more about the outcome of what you're doing and how it would help you, and then just let them do whatever.
Yeah.
And not
I
just
agree.
you, but also the collective.
Yeah,
like, what are you
exactly.
putting out? Is
Yeah.
it serving a bigger purpose?
And
Because, yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, from my perspective is that, as these guys are saying, you kind of, from talking with these people, because there's always a discussion first, you kind of know if it sits with your soul right or wrong, and then based on that, you kind of follow it through. But, I mean, I feel like it's a question of passion and money to a certain extent. And I mean, there's always a sort of balance you have to do. I mean, myself and a lot of people I'm around in London, everyone has a lot of side hustles. Like,
Yeah.
I work part-time at an architecture firm. I work part-time for an artist. I do my own artwork. I also teach. So it's like you do have to become quite dynamic and ambidextrous in the ways that you're fulfilling your soul and fulfilling your bank account.
Especially as a creative, yeah.
Which is it's fucking tiring, but like it is a lot of streams of income, but also a lot of streams of network. So I'm hoping in 5 years' time I can sit down and be like, okay, I'm sick at this. I got the network. Okay, I'm gonna focus on that, and all that like tough groundwork that has allowed me to be on that platform.
Nice. Okay. I think we're done. Can everyone make some noise for everyone on the panel today? And shout out to Homecoming. Shout out to everyone that showed up today. Shout out to you guys. And yeah, man,
Thank
God
you.
bless Nigeria.